Hey, folks, welcome back to the show. Today is all about changing your mental state on demand. In some ways, it's about how to meditate like a Buddhist monk without having put in 40 years of meditation practice. And some of you may know what I'm talking about. A lot of you are probably scratching your heads going, how does that work? Well, it's called NuCalm. And my guest today is Jim Poole. He is the president and the CEO of Solace Lifesciences, which is the company that brings us NuCalm, brings us 30 years of work and research that has been whittled down into a biosignal processing disc, a neuroacoustic software that is delivered through your smartphone, and of course, a good quality pair of headphones and an eye mask. That's all you need to do this. But what this software will do for you is get your brain into an alpha and a theta state. And what can that do for you? Well, all you've got to do is ask all the professional athletes that use it, ask the doctors in cancer wards who use it, or dentists who use it for their patients to relieve their stress while they're going through unpleasant procedures, people with depression, anxiety, PTSD. There's like no limit to the scope of people that this can help, because of course, anything that can help us to become more resilient, to reduce the negative effects of stress on our bodies, to improve our sleep efficiency and quality is going to improve every aspect of our life, including our longevity and anti-aging. So I'm going to let you guys get to the episode. If for those of you guys who are really interested in the science and want to dig in, I've attached a white paper in the show notes that you can read. And there's a lot of clinical studies in there. I love NuCalm because it is clinically validated. And also because it works. It works for me. And finally, you know what comes next. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here. If you get value from this episode, please make sure that you share it out with your friends, your networks, or anybody else who you think will get value. Make sure that you leave us a review. And of course, send me your comments and your questions. I love hearing from you guys. My website, natnidham.com. That's a great way to communicate with me, or through Instagram at Natalie Nidham, or the Facebook group, Optimizing Superhuman Performance. And if you sign up for my newsletter on natnidham.com, you will be the first to find out about the new peptide course that I'm working on. And actually, it may be out by the time you're listening to this podcast, but you'll be one of the first to get your hands on it. Thank you again for being here. Enjoy the episode. Hey, folks, just a little bit of housekeeping before we launch into the episode. Please remember that all of the information provided in these podcasts is for information purposes only. We are never offering treatments, cures, whatever for any kind of disease or medical condition. Anything you hear about here is going to be intriguing. There's some research around it, but make sure that you check with your medical provider before you go off and do any of this stuff for yourself. All right. So, enjoy the episode. And also, if you're looking to connect with me for any reason, with your comments, questions, whatever it may be, you can reach me through my website, which is natnidham.com, or you can find me on Facebook in the Optimizing Superhuman Performance group, or on MeWe in the Biohacking Superhuman Performance group. And of course, you can also follow me on Instagram, which is at Natalie Nidham. Natalie is with an H between the T and the A, the second A. So thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the show, James. Am I supposed to call you Jim or James?
You can call me anything you like, but Jim is what I usually am called. Jim,
all right.
Jimbo, Mr. Jim, Lord Poole, Jimbo, James.
It's a lot of handles. We're just going to stick to Jim for this podcast.
Jim's perfect.
Welcome to the show, Jim Poole. It is a pleasure to have you here. And I'm so grateful for having met you and been introduced to you a couple of months ago.
Thank you. That's very nice. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure. So we're going to talk about NuCalm. We're going to talk about what it is, why people need this in their lives. And I think, there's always been a need for this kind of thing in people's lives, but these days, probably more so than ever. And I didn't want to record this podcast really until I'd had a chance to experience NuCalm for myself and see what it was going to do for me. So, and I'm really happy I did that. So, but before I get into any of that, let's talk a little bit about your story and how you came to be the guru of NuCalm to the world, because
Guru
you're
of
the man.
Yeah. Raised by two psychotherapists with an identical twin brother. My mother was 19 years old. So it's the only siblings in our life. That was plenty. And took the path of my parents and did psychotherapy in the state mental health institutions of Massachusetts for 5 years, and then switched courses, did a lot of schooling, and then ended up at Babson for my MBA and took the path from there to do a lot of private equity mergers and acquisitions, investment banking. Been a part of 49 different acquisitions, companies across all separate verticals of financial services, pharmaceutical, biotech, dentistry, IT. And then as life would have it, because the universe has a way of kind of entertaining itself and bringing you along for the ride. In 2008, our strategic management consulting firm executed the largest transaction, private equity, in the history of the dental industry. And it was a multi-$100 million acquisition of a company in California. And the gentleman who founded the company was a dentist. So as fate would have it, Dr. Blake Hollaway, the neuroscientist, naturopath, and quantum physicist who invented NuCalm and the whole neuroscience platform, was actually kind of fatigued working with chronic stress and wanted to see the impact of his technology on acute stress. And so he thought for probably more than 3 seconds and said, dentistry creates an acute stress response. Mm-hmm. And it's intuitively obvious to the casual bystander if you give it 1 second thought. You're going to ask an adult to lie down on their back, open their mouth, and put hands and instruments in your mouth. Your central nervous system is not going to think that that's a friendly exercise. So he started working with a key opinion leading dentist in San Antonio, Texas, who happened to have a patient profile of the really highest stress people. And in dentistry, over 60 million Americans alone out of 338 million avoid dentistry altogether simply out of fear. And so those folks who actually make it to the dentist are usually having some kind of pharmacological intervention and they're being put to sleep, right? Even if it's for a simple cleaning. So he was working with a dentist. Now, Blake is a neuroscientist, quantum physicist, naturopath. He's not a businessman, but he has this incredible technology that he's pressure testing in this hostile environment of a dental chair to people who are fearful. And it's working exponentially well. And it's taking the doctor out of the need to apply benzodiazepines. But they don't know what they're doing. So the dentist says, you know what? There's a strategy management consulting firm that made Dr. Ibsen a lot of money. We should find them. That's how this came to be.
Wow.
So he somehow, in some way, obviously the internet or whatever, this is 2009, located our firm. And I can tell you that very busy firm, and we had 49 companies and all this stuff happening all the time. And I just didn't have, at that point in my life, I was young, I was only 40, and I didn't have a lot of patience. And for us, we typically would never entertain the idea of working with an inventor. There's something that we would call inventoritis. And it's not a good thing, because inventoritis just means that you can't extricate the person's ego and attachment to the business, and they're meddling in everything. Yeah. In business, you have no time. You have no time. You got to make traction really quickly. So never in our history of 15 years had we ever worked with an inventor. But Blake was different. And I miss him because he passed away just about 18 months ago. His difference, I think part of it, Natalie, was his Southern drawl. He's a Texas. He's born in East Texas, and that disarmed me. Yeah. Secondarily, I could sense an empathetic compassion from him that was overwhelming to me. And thirdly, it's really cool to talk shop with a neuroscientist, quantum physicist, because you're never going to be bored. I had no idea half the things he was saying. So as I reflect upon this 13 years later, it was a perfect timing and the perfect storm for us to kind of collaborate. And we spent 10 weeks doing phone diligence, which is about 9 weeks longer than we ever would anyway. And then I finally just said, you know what, something is compelling me. I need to go meet this gentleman and try this technology that I don't understand. He keeps telling me about it, but I can't figure it out. So I flew down to Texas and I tried NuCalm. And it was in a doctor's office. I just flown in from international travel. I was jet lagged. I was probably a little bit mad at myself for succumbing to his empathy and even being in Texas, because I felt like this was going to be a business venture gone nowhere. And I remember being in NuCalm, and I remember just incredibly powerful feeling of my nose itching. My nose itched profoundly. And I remember my brain saying, hey, you got a itch on your nose, itch it. And your body says, nah, don't worry about it. Then my brain wanders and wanders and wanders. Then my brain says, hey, you have an itch on your nose, itch it. But I couldn't even find my arms. So I was like, I have no idea what's happening here. I get up about 35, 40 minutes later, and I feel amazing. I feel like I didn't just come in from international travel. I felt like I didn't have 1,000 things in my head. And physically, I felt like Gumby. I felt so loose. So the next day, we spent 9 hours in a boardroom whiteboarding out the technology. And with a background in neurophysiology and neuropsychopathology, I kind of understood a little bit. But what really got my attention was the logic. It all made sense. It was complicated, but it made sense. And that began the journey. And I'll tell you that at that point, I was a fast moving locomotive, but the markets had changed so dramatically. In the 2008 was the last acquisition that we did for Credit Suisse, still Jim Merchant Banking, but the market shifted. So M&A kind of dried up anyway. So that's kind of the perfect storm. And you know, as you came to learn, you heard about NuCalm from a friend and it sounds too good to be true. And then you start using it and you're like, okay, wait a second. Something here is profound and something here gripping me and compelling me to learn more about it and to use it and to share it. That same gripped me. And within a few months, it became intuitively obvious that I would have to shut down our strategy management consulting firm, which is a multi-million-dollar firm, global success, incredible history, a track record. But I knew that something this complex, something pioneering that had no point of reference, the brain has never seen anything that we've done before. So there's literally, you can't say, hey, this is just like this. Because it doesn't exist. So I knew with all the challenges, but the profundity of the platform and the invention and the ability to change the course of humankind, that consumed me. And so for the last 13 years, some days it feels like I've been doing this for 30 years, and some days it feels like I've been doing this for weeks. But at some point, I'm inextricably linked to the NuCalm journey, and my DNA and is in with NuCalm, and NuCalm's in with mine. And that's not because I'm the leader of the enterprise and chairman of the board and all that stuff. It's really Blake, for all of his wisdom and his passion and his intellect and his drive. He had Asperger's. So I was the voice to the science for the last 13 years.
Yeah. So you're the one who articulated it to the world, essentially, and made it available.
Yeah.
Wow. That's quite something. So you have an uninterrupted streak of NuCalm sessions that is amazing. Like you have been did it start on that day? Have you not stopped since that day, or did it take, it take you a little while to get started?
It took me a while to have the humility and understanding of, it's really an equation for me at that point. It's embarrassing, but it took me 7 months, I think, to figure out, wait a second, I didn't use it for mindfulness and for patience and presence. I used it for performance. Get me as much out of a 24-hour day as possible. I have a lot to do. And so I was doing it, exploring it. And it was so fun. It was really like so much investigation going on and working with the top scientists in the world. We had so much activity. And I finally came to realization, wait a second, if I give myself 30 minutes of this technology and I lie down on a bed, I don't care where I am, it returns 10 to 12 to 13 hours of focused, high, effective, efficient output. That's an equation I'm in for. So it took from October 26, 2009, about 7 months before I adopted it into my life. And now it's been about 12 and a half years. Now, I will admit and confess to the audience, this year has been exponentially busier than prior years. And my family would probably not say that'd be accurate, but we're moving so fast and we're growing so fast because we launched a consumer model and we dropped the price 99%. This year alone, I've NuCalmed twice in a day, almost 15 times now. So I'm starting, you don't want to abuse it, but you can't over recover. You can't
No.
over restore. There's no, people are like, hey, can you be injured? I said, well, no, you can't. I mean, all we're doing is mimicking the body's natural processes that your body uses at night to go to sleep. So no, you can't overdo it. And sometimes I think, well, when is the shoe going to drop? When is this not going to work for me? And that's never going to happen. And that's a really strong anchor statement to make, and just an amazing amount of confidence in this technology.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. So, I mean, you started with a device. Well, NuCalm started where you needed a device that was cost about, this maybe the first iteration really that came to market was a $6,000 device that, and maybe you can explain a bit that technology, because it's now moved into a whole different sphere, which I guess is the explosion that you're seeing, because all of a sudden you can put this in the palm of somebody's hand who has a pair of headphones and a smartphone.
Yes.
And an eye mask. You need an eye mask.
So why don't we take a step back and just think conceptually, what was Dr. Hollaway trying to accomplish? So here's a man who I think intellectually has the most horsepower of 10 of the smartest people today living. It's incredible. His intellect, his genius was beyond anything I'd ever witnessed. And I've been around a lot of smart people. His quest began 32 years ago with the inspiration of trying to find a way to actually solve the riddle of trauma, PTSD. And the traumatized brain is going to find relief somehow, some way. And often the fastest path to relief is through drugs and alcohol, not because you're weak or a coward or none of that. It has to do with the brain knows a lot more than you do. And the brain knows that alcohol is really fast acting at relieving psychic pain and allowing you to deal with your problems tomorrow. So that's kind of the comorbidity and the genesis of substance abuse with trauma. So the traumatized brain has a profound amount of problems. I mean, it's the hardest profile to live with on earth. There's 7 diagnosable anxiety disorders in the DSM-5. And of those 7, PTSD is the farthest and most profound and most challenging. Okay. I don't want to get too much into that, but there's a reason for it. The physiological impact and the damage to the traumatized brain, whether it's a TBI, concussive act, or ritual trauma over the course of time, sexual abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, etc. But when you look at a PET scan of a traumatized brain, you'll be alarmed to see restricted blood flow to a couple key areas of the brain. Number 1 being the hippocampus, which is your memory center. Number 2 being the prefrontal cortex. So what that does to that person, and there's no shame and there's no guilt in this, their brain has changed. It keeps them perseverating on the toxic memories of the trauma. And it elicits that anxious fight or flight response. So the central nervous system feels vulnerable and at risk, and it's constantly hitting the fight or flight response. So anybody who's listening to this, who knows somebody with trauma or you have trauma, it's not your fault and you're not alone. Mm-hmm. And the reality is we have to find a place to step 1 to health is down regulating the stress response and turning off that buzzer that keeps you in that hypervigilant state. That was the genesis of NuCalm's invention path, because Blake would tell you, I was not going to continue down the path of conventional medicine, looking across from somebody who I love and I want to help, and I can't, because conventional narcotic-based pharmaceuticals are just masking the symptom. They're not addressing the problem. Trying to do cognitive behavioral therapy on a brain that is so scared, is not open to anything new, is an impossibility. He said, I'm literally condemning this person to death because they will kill themselves out of fatigue. That's where this started. And the reason that NuCalm is so important is not for all the ancillary benefits and the performance as a CEO and just all the cool things that happens. It's how do I stop the sympathetic nervous system? How do I take this monkey mind and this stress response and just put it in the corner? Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing. So to do this in the course of history of mankind, this has never been done before. We've never been able to manage the human brainwave function. Meditation's been around for over 3,500 years. Tai Chi, yoga, breathing exercises, these have been around for a long time. And they're predicated on rich science. Now, they're not allopathic Western medicine, double-blind, placebo-based clinical studies, but this is based in reality, okay? These work, but they are very difficult to create the physiological benefit that you need. They take time and persistence. And because there's no roadmap, when you try to meditate and you feel like you failed, it's because you don't even know what meditation is, but no one can explain to you what it's supposed to feel like anyway. It's
Exactly.
a ruse, right?
Yeah.
So it's very confusing and very frustrating. This technology is designed to simply slow down the sympathetic nervous system and raise what is called the parasympathetic nervous system. We have an autonomic nervous system, and this autonomic nervous system is really important to us. And it has a stress response and it has the rest response. Unfortunately, in today's culture, across the globe, 7.6 billion people, most of us are living with our foot on the gas pedal all the time. And that sympathetic overload creates a lot of problems, emotionally problems, psychologically problems. It challenges our ability to be patient, to be present, to think clearly. We're easily sabotaged by fear and stress and anxiety and depression. It's a mess, Natalie. It is a mess.
Mm-hmm.
We're living in a mess. I try not to focus too much attention on it. Prior to COVID, we were already living in the second great age of anxiety. That is not good. The first great age of anxiety was post-World War I, when the central nervous system of everybody on Earth couldn't figure out, where are we grounded? How do we anchor again? We've been there, probably from the advent of technology. Then COVID comes and it shifts everything. People are fatigued and they don't know why they're fatigued. But one reason they're fatigued is your central nervous system has one defined goal and one purpose. That's called self-preservation.
Yeah.
And your five senses, especially your visual cortex and your intuition, are constantly on alert all the time, even in your sleep, to make sure that you are safe. Mm-hmm. Familiarity and security. That's what it's always looking for. COVID changed that.
Yeah.
Nothing that we thought was normal is normal today, which means that we have to burn a lot of calories figuring out where we're safe again. That's what's happening. That's what's happening to all of us. So the need for NuCalm has never been more important in this technology. But the whole premise of NuCalm is downregulate the monkey mind, slow down cortisol, slow down the stress response. You don't have to do anything. You just need to be in a comfortable place and give us a little time, and we're going to take care of you. The first product sold was in 2009. And that was a $6,000 medical device. There was 4 components. It was FDA. It was a lot of work. There's a lot of what I view as non-value added work. There's a lot of research to do. We have a medical advisory board of 52 of the world's top academicians and scientists and doctors evaluating it and independently testing it. And we've been approved by the military and NSF certified for sport and approved by Health Canada, which is more stringent.
Which is crazy.
So we've done all of this work. But the goal was always, we just want to liberate you as a human from stress. We want to take that grip that stress has and get rid of it. But we needed the medical device as a catalyst. We sold NuCalm as a $6,000 medical device to thousands of doctors. And over the course of just the last few years, we've done over 2 million surgical procedures with this technology. That is really important note, because in today's culture, in this kind of change in the zeitgeist, people are starting to catch on to the need for recovery and sleep and biohacking. And there's just a proliferation of all these techs out there. There's not a single tech in the world that would go through 2 million surgical procedures. We're not putting benzos on you. We're putting NuCalm on you, and then we're operating on you. Hello, this is a really big deal. So in 2015, I was introduced to Tony Robbins, and quickly we became friends. And from there, we started traveling the world and sharing NuCalm with his tribe. That changed the trajectory of our business. And it changed it because historically we were doing continuing education and educating doctors, and they were using this, but it was a $6,000 device. Well, Tony's tribe, he's telling people about it and they believe him, and they're buying a $6,000 device online without trying it. That's 2015 and 16 changed the trajectory. And over a 5-year period, Dr. Hollaway invented the NuCalm biosignal processing disc. And that disc uses resonance and frequency. Yes, that biosignal processing disc. That disc liberated us from the medical device and allowed us to leave this whole architecture of kind of non-value added effort, cost associated. And we were able to move away to a real simple device that now, as you said, you can carry it in your hand. You got a headphone, the disc, an eye mask, and a mobile phone, you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we came from. And where we're going is, the goal is simple: get this into the hands of as many humans on earth as possible. Because if I am NuCalming, my wife notices the difference. If I am NuCalming, my children notice that their dad is present and patient, and actually interested in whatever they have to share with me. And that changes their endorphins and changes their stress response. So we don't need, to change humanity, every person on earth, to have this. But the more people that do, we are changing the balance of energy. So you're changing the energy on the planet from negative to positive by liberating us from stress. And it's a big ask and it's a big goal. We've been on this journey for 32 years, and I've been running the company for 13. We're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not for debate. This has to happen. Where we're at in evolution, it needs to happen. We need to raise our consciousness and get away from this fear-based fight or flight insanity. Because all you have to do is stop and say, okay, turn on the news. Oh. When's the last time you turned off the news and you had a sense of peace and serenity and calmness in your heart? Yeah. You didn't. You don't. Yeah. So we can do that. And that's our goal. Our goal is to change this world through this technology that simply gently guides you away from this stress response and puts you in a recovery response and allows you to be a better person.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's lofty goals, but it's amazing to me what you say about, you don't have to get it into everyone's hands. I mean, in a perfect world, we would, right? But every person that's impacted by NuCalm impacts the world around them. And a certain percentage of those people will be like, well, what are you drinking? Like, what are you doing? How did you change? And so they'll jump on, but if we can change our interactions with the whole world, then the ripple effect is incalculable. So maybe we can, and actually you mentioned something earlier about for surgery. So one of you sent me a bunch of documents that I was looking through, and you first started on this on the story of dentists, right? And how in the medical profession, NuCalm, because it has applications for our life. It's how you live your life at the end of the day. But when we're looking at these extreme situations, like going to the dentist and sitting in the chair, nobody wants to be there at all. Frankly, even the dentist's life becomes better, right? Because all of a sudden they're not the most loathed person on the planet anymore. But let's maybe talk a little bit, like you were talking about a pre-surgical as well. So is it the fact that in hospitals, doctors are giving patients access to NuCalm before surgery?
It's pre, during, and post.
Oh, it's so the whole time.
Yeah, so say you're going into an oral maxillofacial surgeon and they're going to remove 4 teeth out of your jaw. That's a pretty profound surgery. Mm-hmm. Instead of being knocked out with a benzodiazepine and having to titrate that and make sure you don't metabolically process through and wake up during surgery, you're just on NuCalm. It's literally 2 minutes. That you come in, the assistant preps you, disc on, eye mask, headphones, wait about 2 or 3 minutes, the jaw drops, the person's in that state, you come in and you're done, you go. During the procedure is when we're doing NuCalm.
Right.
During cancer IV and during kidney dialysis, during surgical procedures, it's so it's really fascinating. Most of us don't understand evolutionary psychology and don't understand the complexity of the neural circuitry of our central nervous system. But your brain knows a hell of a lot more than you ever will. Once you put on a calendar, I have a colonoscopy, on May 4th. Mm-hmm. Well, your brain knows. So it's cool until about April 26th. Then you'll start noticing your sleep starts getting interrupted. You start noticing you're a little more on edge because your central nervous system is like, listen, I don't want to do that. Yeah. That's vulnerable and it's not safe. Same thing for a dentist. So if you interview a dentist, they'll say, hey, we get, 21% patient cancellations. There'll be people, we can look out and see people in the parking lot who are there and then they peel out and they go. So the anticipation creates such a stressful response. When we are going through a surgical procedure, first of all, there's a lot of anticipatory anxiety and confusion and fear because you don't know what's happening anyway. Hey, what is wrong with me, and am I going to be safe? Okay, fine. That buildup of stress prolongs the healing response.
Sure.
Surgical procedure creates a lot more blood in the wound area. It also creates a lot more salivary flow. You metabolize through benzodiazepines and the general anesthesia quickly. So there's a lot of reasons to do a preparatory NuCalm for a week or two beforehand. Then you do NuCalm during the surgical procedure. Then afterwards, the healing response, we've seen, we work with a lot of professional sports teams, so we see that in a really quantified measure. We see 25 to 35% improvement in speed to recover because we mitigated the stress piece of the healing response. So yeah, that part is fascinating. We've really migrated away from the medical community. We have thousands of doctors that use NuCalm, and I still was speaking to a few of them yesterday. But our goal now is to really open this up to the opportunity for kids, taking SATs or PSATs, or moms and dads and grandparents who don't sleep well. After like 50 or 60, your sleep architecture just perpetually diminishes. So that's where it's so much fun for us.
Yeah.
Is everywhere in our life, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
We are human. We all have the same kind of makeup. Our brain and the neural circuitry of our primordial midbrain and our central nervous system is the same. Stress is exactly the same response in my body as it is in yours. Mm-hmm. But we seem so competitive and so comparative in our thinking. We're like, wow, Natalie's got cancer, so her stress must be greater. The magnitude of the stress may be greater, but the stress response in her body is exactly the same as me. There's an amygdala, there's an HPA axis, there's cortisol, and adrenal cortex, and there's all this stuff happening. It is exactly identical. And what I've learned on this 13-year journey, from monks to people dying of stage 4 metastatic cancer, is we all suffer the same consequence of living with stress. That's it. That's why this is ubiquitous and people just need to have it. And It doesn't replace meditation, and it doesn't replace Tai Chi and yoga and deep breathing. If you're an expert in those areas, it's an augmentation and a facilitator. I never would have thought monks would have liked NuCalm. It didn't make any sense to me. But I didn't invent NuCalm. So, my intellectual curiosity has always pushed us to the limits. To NASA scientists and Harvard Medical School statistical biophysicists and the medical director of the NFL, I didn't care because I didn't have any ego attachment. I was like, here, this is what we did. Try it. Well, 7 years ago, we went out to an ashram and started working with monks. And I remember, okay, this is what it is, how it works. 10 days later, I flew back out and I was expecting them to just be like, here, Mr. Poole, thank you. And I said, so what do you guys think? And they looked at me and says, we love NuCalm. And I was like, what are you talking about? I remember I left and I called my team and said, guys, this is getting crazy. We're chilling out monks with this technology.
The most chilled out people on the planet, in theory.
Yes. So, when you ask them, Sanjay Gupta interviewed the Dalai Lama about 4 years ago. And if you should check out that interview because it's fascinating. And at some point he says, so, is meditation easy for you? And the Dalai Lama looked at him and said, no. And you should see the face of demoralization on Sanjay. He's just like, what? And just like the monk said to me, he said, we're human. Meditation requires effort and patience and steps and isolation. And, this whole persistent approach to slow down the monkey mind. NuCalm does it for me. Mm-hmm. It accelerates me right into that deep space, just above sleep, where my mind can be creative and I can create new, cognition and new neuronal coherence in my brain. That is why we got to do this.
Yeah. No kidding. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what it is. Let's talk about the biosignaling disc. Let's talk about why this beautiful musical track is not just a beautiful musical track. Like there was an interesting thing in the white paper that you sent me where you talk about, listening to relaxing music with an eye mask on and headphones on, even people in the control group, like they relaxed, their heart rate went down. The difference was that the NuCalm group, it was a lasting effect. It was Correct. Different. So maybe let's talk a little bit about what this processing disc is. What is it about these tracks that makes them different? Because right now everybody's listening to this going, okay, it's great. What is it exactly?
Okay, we're going to try to demystify the mystical. Number one, the brain and the body communicate in two ways, and that's it. It's not up for debate. There's chemical messaging and there's electrical messaging. In cell biology, your trillions of cells are just sharing information.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So that's kind of the beauty of life. When you eat food, your food doesn't care that you're eating beta carotene out of a carrot. It needs the frequency and the information in the cells of that carrot to communicate to the other cells. That's how this world works. We work in a frequency, and cell biology's frequency, and we work in a brainwave pattern. No one really seems to understand that, and that's okay. So you have chemical messaging and electrical messaging. Enabled to predictably slow down your brain and put you in the state of recovery and healing and deep meditation without meditating. We're going to have to commandeer both channels. That was kind of the beauty and the mystique of Blake's invention. So we have basically a biosignal processing disc that used to be a stimulation device and a transdermal cream and a supplement, but the whole goal is simple: activate your GABAergic system. Your body has what's called gamma aminobutyric acid, GABA A and GABA B. GABA is a really important amino acid in our body. It is the antithesis of the opposite of adrenaline. Mm-hmm. Our bodies are so incredible. And the more we learn about it, the more we're intrigued and humbled by the complexity. It's incredible. This is a closed loop system. Trillions of cells. So if you have adrenaline, of course you have balance. But GABA hasn't been marketing well. So no one really knows about GABA. People know about, 5-hour energy and Red Bull and espresso, adrenaline. But we don't know about it. Well, GABA, without it, you're dead. So it's pretty important to us. What GABA does is it interrupts something called the HPA axis, which is kind of the stress response. Fine. We want to activate the GABAergic system in your body because we want you in a place where you're more permeable to what we're really trying to do, which is slow down your brainwave function. So the biosignal processing disc, very, very complex. It looks like a simple sticker with a design on it. It's nothing like that. It's got nothing to do. We're a neuroscience company doing applied neuropsychobiology and really doing amazing things for the human being. Nothing we do is without intention. Nothing we do is simple, and nothing we do is easy. It just doesn't work that way. So this disc contains a signature of frequencies, okay? Like a recipe. And in this signature of frequencies happens to be several amino acids and inhibitory neurotransmitters. Primarily GABA A and GABA B, and then augmented with L-theanine, casein tryptic hydrolysate, and L-tyrosine.
Nice.
It looks like this.
Yeah.
Now, people say, well, I take GABA supplement. And I say, don't bother. And they say, why? I said, well, the human body has evolved over millions of years to extract nutrients from food, and it does a really good job. The supplement world is new. The human body hasn't evolved. It extracts about a 7 to 9 to 11% yield of the frequencies and the nutrients that are in your supplement. So personally, being a high efficient kind of productive guy doesn't like to waste, I don't want to look in the toilet and flush down 93% of what I buy. So I don't do it. But furthermore, GABA is more complex because you have to cross the blood-brain barrier. Mm-hmm. So don't worry about it. We don't worry about it. You know why? Because we went right to the source. Understanding biochemistry, understand cell biology and bioinformatics, Blake Hollaway spent 5 years finding and locating the specific frequencies of those elements using a German physicist and a Chinese Shenzhen medicine expert. So we have the exact frequencies of GABA A, GABA B, L-theanine, casein tryptic hydrolysate, and L-tyrosine on this disc. Once this software was created, it was an alchemy kind of process for a couple of years. Then we have the software interface. This design was designed in the 1930s by George Lakhovsky. This is a 6-layer multi-wave oscillator. George Lakhovsky was an immigrant who lived in New York along with Nikola Tesla, and they both basically invented electromedicine. Right here in New York. I'm in New York on business. Nikola Tesla, when he was older and he was dying, he wrote a letter to his mother who was back home. And he said, I'm sorry that you're ailing. I wish I were there to give you a meal and to give you some water. He said, I spent my entire life helping humanity and I've received nothing but ridicule. Mm-hmm. It makes you sad, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, this is in the 1930s and 40s, and we still as humans don't understand electromedicine. But Blake did, and thankfully he did. So this is a 6-layer multi-wave oscillator. The recipes are imprinted in a Tesla coil onto this.
So sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you. This, for those of you who are listening to the podcast and not watching it on YouTube, this is a little blue sticker that you put on the inside of your left wrist. I apologize for interrupting you, but I just wanted to make sure that people listening knew what this is.
It's about the size of a U.S. quarter, and it's got a cool mathematical design on it, metallic.
Yeah.
Now the bag that this is placed in, and the bag looks just like a plastic bag with a zip tie. It's not. It's a Faraday bag. It's an anti-static bag. It protects the frequencies and the information on that disc probably for more than 2 decades. Okay, and we're not going to do longitudinal testing on that, but in this bag, this disc is inert and this disc is safe. When you take the disc out of the bag, as sophisticated and cool as the disc is, it's vulnerable to EMF. So if I were to place this on a computer, it'll erase the frequencies and render this useless. So you just need to be careful, when you have the disc. But the disc is doing something really cool. It's like a tuning fork. We're using the pericardium 6 acupressure point that innervates the pericardial sac. In the pericardial sac are autonomic nerve fibers that communicate to the brain. So as soon as you put the disc on your wrist, it activates in your Gauss field, your electromagnetism. And like a tuning fork, there's a frequency that begins to resonate in your brain, and the other cells migrate to that frequency. We are turning on your GABAergic system through frequencies. That's amazing to me. When I first saw these,
that's pretty cool.
It's amazing. And, Blake was amazing, and I love him dearly, and I will forever love him. And I was forever intrigued with his intellect, and I learned so much from him. But he also had Asperger's, so he was a little difficult to manage on operational executive functioning. Never delivered on time, and not even sure what he was going to deliver. So I was in New York, actually staying at the Marriott Eastside in June 8th of 2018 when I received a package from him. And he called me up, Giddy's a schoolboy. He said, "Did you get the package? Did you get the package?" I said, "Yeah." So what is it? He says, "I did it. 5.5 years of work." He said, "I did it." That disc. So being visual, I took the transdermal cream. I took the stimulation device. I took the lead wires. I took the neuro patches, and I put them on one side of my bed. And then I took a sticker off and I put it on the other. And I looked at it and says, "What the hell is he talking about? Is this a joke? Am I being punked? I mean, what is this? This is insane. I'm going to kill this guy." And I NuCalm, and I get up and I say, "Oh my God." It was the smoothest, deepest, coolest NuCalm experience I'd had in my life. And I'd already been doing NuCalm for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
I called him up and said, "Blake," as we started to evaluate this and test it, I said, "Why is this better?" He said, "It's simple, Jim. Bioinformatics, cell communication. When you chew a supplement, or you do a transdermal cream, or you do a liposomal under your tongue, your body metabolizes through this. There's a diminish return. It gets the cell information, but it diminishes through time. This is a signal. You're literally just resonating at a certain frequency, the entirety. So all the time you have the disc on, your body is activating your GABAergic system. That is incredible to me. So that's the biochemistry. Now, interestingly enough, Natalie, it's the only tangible piece of NuCalm. Yeah. So people gravitate to it and they think this is doing all the work. And I tell people, no, this
not
is
so much.
This is about 10% of the work. And they say, "Well, why or how?" I said, "Well, all we're doing with this is trying to negate the body's natural adrenaline and natural resistance." If you look at neurobiofeedback, you can look in the literature and see it's been around for 80 years. And it is not predictable and it's not effective for many of the population. And even of the certain population, I can go one day and it might work really well, and then the next day it doesn't. The thing that it's not taking into consideration is the adrenals. Mm-hmm. If you look at any transcranial direct current stimulation device, anything, you will never see a predictable outcome. Because if you don't manage the chemical messaging of adrenaline, you cannot have a predictable outcome on a human being, because you're different right now than you will be 2 hours from now. I'm different. Today, maybe something happens and tomorrow I'm highly stressed, and easily it can access adrenaline. That is the magic in this invention. It's a systematic approach. Nothing simple, but when you combine these, so when we were awarded the only patent in the world for balancing the health of the human autonomic nervous system, which we could talk about for an hour, the profundity of that statement is incredible. The autonomic nervous system manages fear, stress, anxiety, depression, and worry. your stress response and your rest response. We have the only patent in the world for balancing and maintaining the health of that aspect of our body. That's incredible. But how do we do it? When we went through this whole process of 5.5 years with NASA scientists and all these people doing all this research for the patent office came back and said, hey, you didn't invent GABA. The human brain did. Yup. You didn't invent neuroacoustic software or binaural signal processing. Yup. So what you have to convince us and show us is that your system, 1 + 1 + 1 does not equal 3. 1 + 1 + 1 equals like 12.5. That's what we did. So the disc is incredible by itself. We could talk ad nauseum about a new delivery mechanism to apply to the brain. Great. Then you have an eye mask. This is really simple. We're visually stimulated by light. We have 5 senses in our intuition. Many of us, our intuition is stronger than our 5 senses, but of the 5 senses, 80% of your cerebral cortex is your visual cortex. We receive tremendous amount of information through our eyes. You can't meditate, relax, chill out, do anything in that arena of brainwave with your eyes open. So you have an eye mask. Simple. Simple, simple, simple. Now, not so simple. Neuroacoustic software.
Yeah.
You listen to music. Great. Music cannot take my brainwave to theta or delta. That is a physiological impossibility. Music cannot do that. Music can take me down from maybe stress to less stressed, can take me down to less stressed to alpha into creativity. But music cannot drive your brain down into theta and delta. That is not a possibility. Okay, we're not dealing with music. We're dealing with physics, mathematics, and algorithms. We're dealing with using your ears as a carrier to present your brain with a signal and pace your brain. We are pacing your brain. So today is Friday. I'm in New York. I've been here for 3 days. Worked last night till 10:40. Worked the night before till about 11:30. And I was tired this morning. And so I had coffee. And coffee is not magic. Coffee simply increases the frequency of my brainwave. And then my neurons are firing faster and I'm awake. Okay, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to take a brain that's either functioning okay and alert or stressed or really stressed or out of your mind stressed. And we're simply going to pace it down into alpha and theta. So brainwave function, what am I talking about? The human being has a 41 hertz range of brainwave function. And what's interesting about something like frequency and resonance, and that is when your brain is a certain frequency, your body and the physiological outcome is exactly what it's supposed to be. This is not up for debate. So for example, beta brainwave function is the broadest range, and it's 13 hertz to 15 hertz, a certain frequency, and that is just alert. 15 hertz to 20 hertz is focus. So if my brain is at 16 hertz, I'm focused. 20 to 25 hertz is stressed, anticipatory anxiety, little demons on my shoulders telling me things I don't want to hear, stuff like that. Yep. 25 to 30 hertz, highly stressed, not really capable of cognition. And 30 to 38, you are out of your marbles. You're cognitively associated and you are in full hysterical panic mode. Below that is called alpha. Many people have heard of alpha, and the meditators certainly have. Transcendental meditation, creativity, relaxation, peace of mind, calm. That's 12 hertz to 8 hertz. It's a slower waveform. Below alpha is theta, T-H-E-T-A. Theta is really important for human longevity, resilience, and health. Why? Because it is called the healing zone. That sounds pretty tasty. I'd like to spend time in the healing zone. Now I'm 53 and healing becomes more important because mortality becomes more obvious, right? These simple things like this, right? So healing zone, what is that? Why is it called the healing zone? Well, the healing zone is 7 hertz to 4 hertz and it's just above deep sleep. And deep sleep is 4 hertz to 0.5 hertz. So when my brain, your brain, and anybody listening's brain is at 1 hertz, we know what the outcome is. You are in dreamless like deep sleep. 2 hertz, you're in dreamless like deep sleep. 6 hertz, you're in theta and you're healing. 10 hertz, you're in the creative zone and you're in alpha. 15 hertz, you're focused. 21 hertz, you're stressed. 30 hertz, you're out of your marbles. And then there's one little range called gamma. Gamma is up above beta and up above crazy stress out of your mind. And it's this little sweet spot. It's a tight band, 39 to 41 hertz. And in that band, it elicits higher consciousness, activation of your sensory motor rhythm, your cerebellum, and activates your senses and gives you high intensity, mistake-free focus. So that is the landscape of being a human. That's how humans operate. Every day, every second, you know how we're never really the same? We're never the same, ever. Right now, I'm not the same as I'm going to be at 2 o'clock, and I'm not the same today, right now, than I was at 10 o'clock. It's because we're frequencies and we resonate, whether it's glucose, whether it's stress, whether it's water, hydration, doesn't matter. We're frequencies. So we are going to play in the realm of frequencies. And we have created a neuroscience platform that for the first time in history can predictably elicit an outcome. And we were awarded the only patent in the world for this method last year. So we've proven ad nauseum over 6 years of research showing this is what we do every single time. So we, in the form of Dr. Hollaway's science, has built a whole platform that allows us to dial up or dial down your brainwave function on demand. So NuCalm uses over $8 million of patented physics, mathematics, and algorithms, so complex, to deliver this complex message to the brain that the brain follows into alpha and theta. The music is a carrier. It allows us to create an experience that's nice. If you just listen to the physics platform, you would hear this. You'd be annoyed. It's unpleasant. So all we're doing is we're masking the magic with music. So I think when we first spoke, I gave you that analogy of the National Geographic picture of the iceberg. The iceberg has beautiful, majestic ice above the waterline, maybe 500 feet. It's just amazing. And then you look under the water and there's about 10,000 feet of ice. That's what we're doing when we deliver neuroacoustic software to you. Mm-hmm. Music is designed expressly and specifically to the physics and mathematics of the software. It takes us 6, 7, 8 months to build a new track. In fact, we just released Ignite Warrior Brain Unstoppable, and it took us 28 months to create that, and has over 200 recorded elements in a 14-minute and 37-second journey. It's insane. So everything has to be meticulously designed, and the music is nice. We spend a lot of time in the solfeggio ancient music scale, which is commensurate with the golden mean and the mathematics of the universe. Interestingly enough, in the 1930s, the Nazis, who were very, very disingenuous, but smart, changed music from the solfeggio scale and changed the scale to 440 in A. And they knew that if we did this, we can kind of manipulate your brain better. And guess what happened? It didn't just happen across our country, it happened across the world. So we don't operate in the ancient solfeggio music scale anymore. 80 years. But Dr. Hollaway and Blake and Dan Celine, our collaboration, we said, hey, let's go back to the old school. Let's go back to 528 hertz miracle tone. Let's go back to 432 hertz healing tone. And let's work in the solfeggio music scales. Let's bring in instruments and bring in musicians that understand the complexity of this. And then let's build composition, beautiful music composition that's commensurate with the math. So we have a pitch and a frequency mathematical matrix. It's very complicated, but the outcome is easy for us, isn't it? You get in your bed, you put a track on, Rescue 50. It has a beautiful sound to it. It's soothing. What's fascinating, and you're probably already picking this up because you've been NuCalm for a while. As soon as you get emotionally connected to one of the rhythms, it changes.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? Okay.
Yeah.
We have to, because when you emotionally connect to what we're doing, you're activating your monkey mind, and then your mind is going to control you again. So everything is designed to say, okay, we're here. Let's do a derivative.
That's so interesting. Because I noticed there were segments to the music. The other thing I noticed that I actually wanted to ask you about is in a couple of the tracks, or maybe this is in all of them, there's certain, and it's really hard for me to articulate this, but there's something in the track, or there's a tonality. It literally feels like it's tickling my brain. Has anybody ever said that to you?
Hell yeah. That's oxygenation.
Like and there's times when it moves from, and then there's other times where the sound moves from one headphone to the other, and almost feels like it's massaging the brain. Like it's the coolest. I've been wanting to talk to you about this for weeks. I just didn't want to, but literally feels like the sound waves are, I guess the best way to describe it is they're massaging the brain, and they're using the ear or the auditory canal as the point of entry. Is that,
Yes.
am I just crazy, or am I up in the 38s or?
We used to have marketing materials that had the picture of a brain and hands on the brain. It was called the mind massage.
Yeah.
Dan Celine calls these compositions sound baths.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're exactly spot on. But the feeling is oxygenation.
Okay, so it's like blood flow, basically. It's just
yeah. So
right.
So something I think your audience is probably, I would hope, is on a path of higher consciousness, on a path of trying to find ways, processes, methods, yoga, tai chi, meditation, deep breathing, good nutrition, sleep, good relationships, positive thinking, conflict resolution, all these things that take us in the right direction. Well, people don't understand why you meditate. People haven't been told why yoga does what it does. I'm going to tell you what it is. It's not a mystery. And I don't know why no one tells anybody. It's about oxygenation of the enterprise. Oxygen is the body's primary healing property, period. It's the most important element in our world. Okay. When you do deep breathing, when you do yoga, tai chi, and advanced meditation like a monk, what you're doing is you're balancing the autonomic nervous system. And when I can put the sympathetic or stress response down to the floor and raise the parasympathetic, you are synchronizing your respiration to one breath every 10 seconds. So when you are in NuCalm, if you looked at respiratory sinus arrhythmia or HRV, we are basically taking you to the state of 6 breaths a minute, fully activating and oxygenating with oxygen-rich red blood from your toes to your prefrontal cortex. So there are times, Natalie, when you may be dealing with a hematoma or some type of contusion or a wound, and you'll feel blood flow and movement in that area. That's oxygenation of your body, because your mind, cortisol and monkey mind, is not taking the resources. That's so you, in your experience, have found out why NuCalm is so important. It's not the cool factor of a biosignal processing disc using a multi-wave oscillator or neuroacoustic software. The outcome is to liberate the body to do what it's intended to do. Your body knows how to heal thyself. It's the monkey mind that gets in the way. NuCalm has changed that game. So that's all we're doing. We're oxygenating you. So when you get up from NuCalm, what do you feel? I have no voices in the back of my head. I have no conversations going on. I am present. I feel more grounded. My feet feel heavier to the earth. My shoulders are lower. I feel more mental clarity and optimism and positive energy. That's not, NuCalm isn't a miracle. NuCalm didn't do shit. It liberated your body to oxygenate you. So when we can put oxygen in your prefrontal cortex, in the forehead of our human being, which separates us from everybody else, that's why you feel so good. And that's why your family members and your friends say, wow, something's different. I used to be a hardcore, hard driving, impatient, intense East Coast private equity investment banker. I'm not proud of some of the conflict I had. When people meet me today, man, they're like, what the hell?
What happened?
What happened to you? Right? Now I live like a monk with a suit on. It's amazing. It's such a gift to humanity. That's what we're doing. So for everybody listening on this, you can be enamored with the complexity of the science. That's great. That's the how-to. But the why is we need to get you into balance. We need to get you a place of health where you can be anything you want to be. NuCalm isn't going to make me a professional athlete. We've been working with the best athletes in the world for 13 years. You don't see me performing with them? Okay. But if it's being the best dad or traveling without jet lag or performing in all these different verticals or going to the Pentagon, whatever I do, I'm really good at it because I am not sabotaged by stress and fear, insecurity, and I don't worry. I spend no mental calories worrying, period. It's because of oxygenation to key areas of my brain over time, that cumulative benefit. The first time you do NuCalm, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to feel something because we're unplugging a lifetime of built up stress, and it's profound. But the profundity lies in the cumulative benefits. As you keep doing this, we're taking 40 million years of evolution in our fight or flight mechanism, and we're putting it in the corner where it belongs. Because humans today, it's 2022, it's pathetic how slowly we've evolved. And we still allow 40 million year old reptilian part of our brain to override our prefrontal cortex, which is only 4 million years old. And so the battle we have every day is the central nervous system looking around for fear and stress and triggers and pinging our fight or flight and activating these triggers and consuming calories and wasting our time and energy. And, you know, when you go through a stressful period or conflict, or you have a friend who's a borderline personality or whatever it is, it fatigues you. Mm-hmm. It wears you down because you're having to use all these resources for no good. You're just surviving, right? So that's the beauty of what we've done. That's what I believe in my heart, that Blake Hollaway will earn a Nobel Peace Prize post-mortem, because just like Nikola Tesla and George Lakhovsky and, you know, the microwave, the first patent for a microwave was 1946. 40 years later, it became a household item, okay? So we're pioneering. Nobody understands what I say. Half the time we talk, people are looking at me with their eyes crossed and they're like, what is this guy talking about? Maybe at some point people will understand. To me, Natalie, it's not about, hey, how cool our science is. What's the outcome? What value can we do to your life? That's what I care about. I don't want people to ask me how it works. I want them to think of it as a microwave. What does a microwave do? It conveniently heats up my food quickly. Okay, what does NuCalm do? It makes me a better human being. Mm-hmm. It makes me happier and healthier. It makes me look more attractive to my spouse and funnier to my kids. It makes me feel better. It makes me not miss sleep, you know? So that's what we're here to do. We're here to be a facilitator to allow the body to get into that balance it knows how to get to without the monkey mind.
Yeah. I think that, you know, that is the most profound thing. Like we talk a lot about, you know, and I've talked to a lot of people about different things about getting out of the way. The body can repair in ways that we have yet to discover, but we do have to get ourselves and all the obstacles we put in place out of the way. And if this is one of those tools that does that, and the mind getting in the way is, you can't supplement it away. You know, you can't out supplement chronic stress.
No, you can't. And I'll tell you this, some of the best work I've done is with stage 4 cancer. Mm-hmm. It's some of the hardest and some of the most beautiful, because when you're diagnosed with cancer, the stress and the fear consume you, and cortisol accelerates, and you're literally losing your life faster. So I tell people, I say, I'm not here to cure you of cancer. No, but I'm here to give you a good night's rest, and peace of mind. The person who is diagnosed with cancer literally can't stop the fear. Yeah. They can't. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. Ask someone who's dying of stage 4 cancer to meditate.
Yeah, good luck with that.
They look at you like, are you crazy? Do you not understand how consumed I am? That is so powerful. We're not asking for your permission. And the cool thing about NuCalm is it doesn't discriminate. Your brain and your body work the same way that everybody else does. So if we're going to take chemical messaging and electrical messaging, the biosignal processing disk and the neuroacoustic software, we're taking you to alpha and theta. We're helping you heal. We were so confident and so intrigued by this whole process. The 2 research groups that we did to get awarded the only patent in the world was stage 4 cancer and the Chicago Blackhawks. We studied them for a year. Hello. And it had the same impact on both populations. So my advice to your audience is, hey, this technology is cool. And we have a lot of science, and you can look at the science and really get intrigued with the complexity of the brain and how all these things work together. It's fascinating. You'll never get bored. But in reality, we're living in a very stressful period. Our kids are being exposed to things that we never dreamed of being, right? Technology, for all its beauty, has a lot of negative consequences. The proliferation of antidepressants and anti-anxiety to children whose brain hasn't even evolved yet is beyond disgusting, but it shows a level of desperation. We're in a place where we need to heal, and we need something. This is a technology that comes to the rescue for humanity, period. It is built on 32 years of invention. We had the only patents. It was FDA's $6,000 Class C medical device, and Health Canada and NSF certified for sport, and used across the military, used across the VA, used across 50 professional sports teams. but now it's available to humans. And so we dropped the price to a subscription model. For Canadians and anybody outside the United States, we can only do the annual subscriptions and the mastermind. Unfortunately, when you're shipping $40 of biosignal processing discs and the shipping cost is $39, that's really, I'm not going to accept that. So we said, we can't do that, and we can't change international shipping laws. So get it, try it, use it, feel better, perform better, live better. It'll stop your inflammation. It'll improve your resilience. You will not have jet lag. It's just an amazing tool. And the amazement is, all it's doing is, if you look at, the quad of health, you've got nutrition, and you've got sleep, and you've got stress management, and you've got your interpersonal piece, right? Well, this checks the box on the stress side, and it'll change your life.
Okay. Well, before we go, the one final thing, I just want to describe to people there's 3 buckets on your NuCalm app.
Yeah. Okay. Right? Wonderful.
So there's NuCalm, then there's Ignite Warrior, and then there's Sleep. And they're all quite different and synergistic at the same time. Maybe you just want to explain to people a little bit about those. I mean, NuCalm is that thing you do every single day. Sleep, I've played with. And when I started Sleep, the one sleep track in particular that really hits the mark for me, and maybe it varies from person to person. I measure my sleep metrics like all the rest of the crazy biohackers. And it definitely had a material impact on my sleep biometrics. And then the Ignite Warrior is just a whole other adventure. So, an adventure being the word.
Here's what we've done. NuCalm is a flagship product because if we can resolve your stress and balance your autonomic nervous system, we're going to put you in a place of health. You're going to live the best life possible, and you're not going to die of a nefarious disease too early in your life. That's it, period. It has to be the foundation, and it continues to be the foundation. So what did we do? As a company, we're a neuroscience company. We're not a gadget company. We're not a marketing company. There's no smoke and mirrors. There's 32 years and $33 million of invested capital into this journey. This is very complex. So big problems demand big solutions. So please, and when you're evaluating technologies out there, don't fall for the gadgets, because have the humility to understand the complexity of the brain. There's nothing out there that's simple enough in its form factor that can predictably manage the human brain. It's never going to happen, period. So you look at NuCalm, and there's 3 components. Why? Because of the complexity of the brain. So on November 15th, 2021, basically like 32 years of Blake's dream came to life, where we launched 2 new products. Ignite Warrior Brain is the antithesis of NuCalm. It actually activates your sensory motor rhythm and brings you into that high, intense, mistake-free focus of gamma. It's a 14 to 15 minute track. There's no eye mask. There's no disc. You just have headphones. You can do it pre-workout, during a workout, walking your dog. You need, instead of coffee. It's amazing. We've had it in the market for 7 years. We had 998 special forces operators and professional athletes sign an NDA and use this before we commercialized it. Deep sleep is the most sophisticated physics we've ever created. 9 years in the making. It is using what's called an isochronic waveform. So you do not need headphones. You just play it with a portable speaker in your bedroom. A mobile phone does not have enough frequency range to push the physics necessary. So a mobile phone's inconsequential to deep sleep. An iPad's not bad, but a speaker will put you into a vegetative state. It's amazing. We launched 2 new products. They are side by side with NuCalm, but NuCalm is a benchmark. So what did we do? We didn't want to complicate the value proposition to the consumer. So we put them into the NuCalm app. So you can do a NuCalm subscription, or you can do a premium subscription. Premium subscription gets you access to NuCalm as your foundation, and then Ignite Warrior Brain and Deep Sleep. And coming next month, we are launching Focus, which is a whole new category, 5 years in the making, 3 15-minute tracks you listen to just with headphones, and it oscillates brainwaves into 15 to 20 hertz. So, we've gotten to a place, and my only miss and my only regret is Blake passed away on December 20th, 2020, and didn't get to see the fruition of all of his life's work, to see that we have now gotten to a place, and I'm gonna make a statement that I want you to chew on for a minute. You can change your mental state on demand without drugs, without side effects, and without compromise. And prior to that statement and prior to November 15, 2021, that was never available to humanity. There's nothing else out there on this earth that allows you to go up to 41 hertz or down to 0.5 hertz on demand using physics and neuroacoustic software. So thank you for bringing that up. We focus on NuCalm as the beachhead, and it's got 12 years of experience in the market and millions of people that use it. And it is the foundation. I don't want people buying the premium and just using Ignite because they love adrenaline. You'll burn your adrenals out so quickly, you won't know which way is up. So, it's amazing. It literally, every night I use deep sleep, I pass out like a baby. What I've noticed, Natalie, for me personally, I don't really have onset of sleep issues. I have the 53-year-old get up 2 or 3 times a night and pee issues where my brain wants to wake up. I can barely find my bed, and I've lived in my house for 19 years. That's how in deep I am with deep sleep. That I've noticed. That's incredible. And you've noticed through your metrics. Like last night, I got an hour and 57 minutes of deep sleep and an hour and 32 minutes of REM. Hello. That's not normal for someone my age who's traveling and doing this thing. So deep sleep's amazing. Ignite Warrior Brain is for the person who just wants an energy boost without coffee, wants to just get going, get after it. And it's amazing. So thank you for bringing that up again. Change your state on demand.
That's the name of the game, my friend. The name of the game. I mean, I changed my state before this podcast. So
I did too.
You did too? Yeah. Well, I mean, like you kind of find yourself saying, oh, I need to, and you learn. And it's funny because people say, I don't have time. I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to NuCalm. I don't have time. And you make it. And it's a commitment. And and I've tried to explain this to people, and some clients I explain it to get it. And other people, maybe they're not ready to hear it, whatever the case may be, but it's a decision. It's like anything else. And
there's
it's
three
a decision.
There's 3 things I ask somebody. If they give me that I don't have time, then I said, then I don't have time to help you. Okay. If you're not worth your own time, you're not worth mine. But then I like math. I say, I'm sorry. Are you not worth 1/48th of the day? You can't do 30 minutes? No. I said, okay. Are you worth 1/72nd of the day? Can you do 20 minutes? Can you do 20?
Math guy.
You know what? That works, because then they're like, yeah, I'm worth 1/72nd of the day. Who's making up the other 71?
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's a ruse. It's a ruse. I've done a lot of work, and I do a lot of collaboration with monks since I started working with them. And I love the wisdom, and I love the evolutionary psychology and the social psychology. And it's amazing how complex and how self-sabotaging the human race is.
Yeah.
We're our own worst enemy. And you try to help people, and it's like, hey, you get to a point of just apathy. You're like, I can help you when you want to be helped.
Well, people have to be ready. They have to be ready to walk through the door. So guys, if you're ready to walk through the door, there will be a discount code in the show notes, because that's the one thing I forgot to look up before recording the podcast. But otherwise, it's NuCalm.com is the website.
Yes.
Is that it?
NuCalm.com.
And sorry?
NuCalm.com. Come and learn all you want about the human brain.
Yeah, it's a great website. Lots of information there. Jim, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything. And I hope we get to talk again real soon.
Well, it's my pleasure. I meet a lot of people of all walks of life, and I can tell this to your audience. You came to me as a stranger through a friend, and you had a lot of enthusiasm. The more you learned about it, the more enthusiastic you got. And then you made a commitment to yourself, and you said, hey, I'm going to do this every day. Well, I hear that all the time. And you're one of the few people that actually honored that. So it's a pleasure to meet you. I respect how you honor yourself and the things that you're doing. And I know that on this journey, NuCalm's never going to let you down. And you're going to be an even better human being and a better person to help others along the way. So it's fun, and it's a real pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much.